What is up, YouTube gang? Welcome back for another episode of V-Talks. Today's going to be a little bit different. Today I'm going to actually be drawing a picture of one of my friends who wanted me to do them in like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure style. And I wanted to tell the story of how my first time with a woman got me into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I know that sounds bizarre, but what better way to get into a bizarre adventure than starting with a bizarre circumstance? So I'll start with where it all began. I was living with my friends, Wesley, Casey, Willie, Byron, and myself. So there were like 5 of us in there. There were quite a few. And I ended up getting this Tinder app on my phone. Everybody knows what Tinder is at this point, I hope. And I was going through and I had met somebody on there. And this was at a time where I was definitely not confident in myself whatsoever. I didn't feel like I had really any sort of substance to myself as a person. I didn't feel like I was really all that assertive. I wasn't very charming. I didn't feel like I had all that much going for me at the time. So it reflected in my being single sort of status. So I matched with this girl and we actually talked for a little bit of time. We talked for like 2 weeks, I want to say, something around there, and it naturally, of course, evolved into me actually going and meeting her. I had to actually hop a town over to go and see her, but when I did, it was actually really cool. Nothing happened the first time we met. I showed up, we pretty much like introduced ourselves in person, and it was very bizarre to me because I had never done something like that with the agenda that I had. I was like, wow, this is really strange, just meeting a girl to talk to a girl, you know? So I met her sister, I met their landlord, who I guess was her sister's boyfriend, all that good fun stuff. And what we ended up doing was we just went and got McDonald's and hung out for a little bit. And that was pretty much the first meeting I had, was like spending the first day chilling with them, and that was cool. And then 2 weeks go by, and then I go over there again, help her look for a car. After that, we had gone back to her place, and it was late. She had work, I guess, at like midnight. She was like a security guard or something like that, and I was going to drive her to work that night, but she wanted to, take a nap, rest a little bit. So she asked me, oh, hey, do you want to just take a nap in my bed with me? And I was like, sure, yeah. I don't really know what that means, but that sounds fun. I kind of love how naive I was at the time because I didn't believe or understand the circumstance I was in. But I was like, yeah, sure, hell yeah, I'm down. And so I end up going to her room, and we end up hanging out there for 5-10 minutes, and I'm just laying there. And she's like cuddling up next to me, and I'm like, my heart's pounding in my chest. I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. Like, what do I do? I was in unfamiliar territory for myself. I was just in disbelief. And so she was asking me, like, do I want to make the first move? And I was trembling. Like, my legs were like, it was like a machine gun, and I was just like super nervous. And I was like, no. I said no. And she was like, that's okay. So she ended up taking the initiative and doing all this stuff. And I don't think I need to elaborate what happened after that. Needless to say, after that, we hung out for a little bit, and then I ended up taking her to work. After that, that drive home, that drive from her town to my town was just like, wow, like, oh, what is this? What's life now? What happened to me was I had believed for so long that I was never going to be with a woman. Like, I just figured, there was just some sort of curse upon me that would just indefinitely prevent me from having that. And that was lifted that night, so I just didn't understand where I was, I was like, what is going on here? So I pretty much just stayed up that whole rest of the night. I drove all the way home, and when I got back, I was just exhausted, but at the same time, like, could not sleep. I think you guys know what I mean by that. So the next day, I tried talking to her, but it was obvious that it was just going to be like one of those like one night stand sort of things. So I was like, okay, that was that, I guess. we didn't really have like too much of a crazy connection for me to be like emotionally messed up about it, but it was the situation that just had me going on like, well, what was that? Or like, what did I just experience? And so I sat on my couch in my room for like almost a whole day just staring at like my TV that was off at the time, and I was like, I just do not know what to do with my relativity. I don't know how to process this information. So what I ended up doing was getting Crunchyroll. Was it Crunchyroll? No, it was like Verve, I think, like VRV. And I threw up this show called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I had heard one of my friends talk about it before when I played Warhammer with him, and I was like, that show just sounds whack. Like, I don't know how vampires goes to, some sort of weird stuff. But when I watched it, it made way more sense. And so I started watching season 1 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and it really had me with, it's definitely anime tropes all across the board, but it had me with just, it was interesting and old-timey. But then the second season was like his grandson, and I was like, wait, the next season isn't about the same guy? That's weird. And then the third season was about that dude, the second guy's grandson, and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And the guy from the first season's back? Whoa, hold on. And it just, as I spent like 4 days, I took like 2 days off of work because I was pissed off at my bosses at the time. So these 4 days, I was watching Verve, and I was just like, wow, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is just absolutely, definitely bizarre, but I fell in love with it, I was super into it at the time. And I think it really did help me get out of my weird headspace of like, what is life? What is existence when it's not what you thought it was? And that's what I thought was like the biggest key point for me, was just being able to identify the fact that there is like an echo chamber that people tell themselves and that they listen to that's not true about themselves. I was so dirt nasty convinced that I was going to be like unattractive to every single woman for the rest of my life because there was like just a magical aura that was just there. I never said it, but I definitely sure as hell believed it. And I think other people end up believing that too, just not that specific thing, but everybody has that something where it's like, that's not necessarily true about yourself. That doesn't make sense. You're not going to be some crazy hero standing on your roof shooting down libtards with your machine gun because they're swarming your house. That's not going to happen. But there's also not the other end of it where it's, you're not going to be cursed and alone and a freak forever if that's not what you need to make yourself out to be. Everybody has their misconception about themselves that they don't know is absolutely outlandish until they say it out loud, and then when you actually hear it, it's like, wow, that is bizarre. That doesn't make any sense. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure makes more sense than me being single for my entire life because of a curse, and that's saying something. But I'd like to ask you, what are the things that you have internally that you tell yourself that are just totally not true? What are the things in your echo chamber that you say that are just absolutely bizarre, outlandish, like there's no way you could believe it? What are the things like, I am a lord because I understand the world better than all of you, and all of you are just blind cattle? That sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud. So that's the things that I want to ask you guys, everybody who's watching this video. What are the things that you tell yourself internally, negative or, crazy, outlandish, positive? What are the things that you say that you truly believe that you haven't told anybody? And once you say it out loud and you actually think about it, you'll be like, yeah, that sounds weird. That sounds totally just whack. If there's anything to get from this video, it is that everybody tells themselves a misconception of themselves. Everybody has that little voice in their head that is definitely not their conscience that's saying, hey, like, you're never going to succeed. Why? Well, I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. But you definitely aren't going to. You'll never make it there, ever. And then there's the people who are just like, hey, you know what? You're going to become the president. And then, after that, you're going to become a world dictator. And everyone's gonna bow down to you because you're so great. And then you'll become the biggest millionaire in the world because, well, I haven't thought that far ahead. But anyways, you'll do it. Like, just the stuff that people think are just so crazy about themselves. Most of the time it's absolutely negative, but then when people make it that other end of the spectrum, that's also because it's a reflection of what they're not as well. I was thinking I was going to become death and reap the entire world and kill everybody who had wronged me because I was just bitter, But that doesn't make sense. If that was the actual case of how reality worked, reality would not be what it is, So the fantasy that's within everybody's head, I just want you to take some time and look at it. And what is your fantasy you tell yourself that just doesn't make sense? What is your bizarre adventure? That's pretty much it. That's all I got for this video. I know it's a little bit of like, I don't know where you're going with this, but all right, man, sure. But thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my story and my little drawing here. It was not like crazy effort. I just figured it would just be a fun little sketch to do and put up for this video. So thank you guys. I will see you on the next episode of VTalks. Ciao.